Yo, what's up?
So, how are you?
Good. Hi, YouTube.
I gotta make sure my stuff's all seen. Otherwise, what's the point? Really looks lame, the Michael Myers one. Oh well.
I don't look that bad. All right, you want to run down what we're talking about tonight?
All right. Let's see here. Where is it at? So I've got Malcolm and Marie, Al Davis versus the NFL, Little Fish, Earwig and the Witch, More Than Miyagi, Promising Young Woman, Faces, and then the 91 movies.
Good. Yeah, I just finished Sleeping with the Enemy a little while ago.
Oh, you found it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was in Redbox actually.
Oh, wow.
I know, right?
That's probably the only way you could have seen it. That's insane. All right. Do we need to talk about anything news, Super Bowl-ish? I don't know.
I mean, I didn't think there was that much movie stuff from the Super Bowl, really.
Good.
They showed the Fast 9 commercial, which was nothing really. And then Vin Diesel looks like he's had some work done other than that.
They had the M. Night movie, but I didn't really.
Oh, yeah. Old. Yeah.
Not worth it to me either. I agree.
Yeah.
All right. And then next week, I mean, HBO has Judas and the Black Messiah and a movie called There Is No I in Threesome, which sounds fascinating. Red Dot on Netflix, The Map of Tiny Perfect Things on Amazon, To All the Boys Always and Forever on Netflix. Again, I don't know if any of these are actually good or not.
Right.
You said X and French Exit.
Yeah. And I'm probably gonna do To the Boys, To All the Boys. I've got a screener of that in my Netflix, so I'll probably do that one for sure.
All right. And I'll probably watch the threesome movie just because. Why not?
Who's in that?
I have no idea. I just like the title.
It's a good title.
91 Sounds of the Lambs. I believe it came out in February. King Ralph, Cadence, and Nothing But Trouble. Any ideas for classics? Any threesome movies that you're aware of that are classics?
That are classics?
Carnal Knowledge or something like that.
Fuck, I hate that movie.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen it? I hate it.
I'm not saying let's make that. I was just kidding. I don't even know if that's a threesome movie. I just know there's like a cover of them all in bed.
Are you sure you're not thinking of Bob Carroll, Ted, and Alice?
I don't know what I'm thinking of.
Let's watch Bob Carroll, Ted, and Alice. Always been weirdly curious about that movie.
Have you seen it?
No.
When did it come out? Like
71, I think.
Oh. And there's always Caligula.
We did Caligula on the show, didn't we?
No. Oh. I've never seen it either. But I think I like this one better for now. We can always do Caligula another time. We've talked about it before.
Okay.
Never like as a topic. It's never been a classic or anything. All right. So you ready then?
Yeah.
You invest in any of this GameStop stock or anything?
I wish.
Corey told me to invest in this dog cryptocurrency. That's what I did when it was 2 cents.
Yeah.
Now it's 8 cents.
Oh, wow.
So I'm rich. I'll be a millionaire if it ever hits $41. Until then, 100 air.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, hey, it's good. I don't trust any of that crypto crap.
Oh, I don't. It was Sure, the equivalent of going to Vegas.
Yeah.
I didn't put very much in. Okay, let's see here. And then when I bought AMC, it was on the way down, and I totally fucked over that. Like everything I've gained and the other one AMC killed me.
They'll go back up once everything's open again.
Yeah, I'm just gonna hold on to it, and I don't know that it'll go great, but at least I can get my money back. All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
I'll play the music you can't hear, and we'll go. Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at ihatecritics.net, everyone's a critic podcast.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. You can listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Alexa, Stitcher, all your podcatchers. If you're in India, I believe the podcatcher is called Ghana. We thank all of you for the support, but please subscribe to the show no matter where you listen to us. If you subscribe and rate and review the show, it does help. We're also on YouTube. We record live every Sunday morning or Monday night, depending on what our schedule is aligned for. If you want to watch, just got to get lucky. Subscribe to the show and click on the little bell to be notified when we're live.
There was a little something happening yesterday on Sunday night that we probably just didn't want to compete with.
Yeah. What was that? Oh, Brady. Yeah, NFL really wanted him to win.
Yeah.
And saw the penalties in Kansas City. Anyway, I mean, I wanted him to win too. I was kind of excited, but it was just like, okay, this is a little one-sided on the officiating. Regardless, none of you movie people care about.
No.
Also, that's YouTube. Then we have a Patreon, patreon.com/criticspod. The best way to help support the podcast. Currently out there is the I Spit on Your Grave bonus episode, along with the video of the content. You only see the video ever on Patreon. It'll never be on YouTube. The episode will eventually be released to the regular feed because we're so proud of that episode, but you get it for a whole month before anybody else hears it. And then we're going to bring Josh back for an A24 feature, the top 24 of May 24, later this month. I can't wait for that one too. That'll be fun. Anytime we can do A24, we're gonna beat that horse and milk it dry.
Yeah, there's a new A24 movie hitting theaters this weekend. Minari is finally getting released.
Finally, I might write that one down just accidentally if I can come across that one. You think it'll go? Is it strictly theater or?
I don't know. A24 has been kind of cagey lately. Like Saint Maud has been shown to some people, but nobody knows when they'll release it. And this one, they announced this week, I think, that they were doing the theatrical release after it got 10 Critics' Choice nominations, which were announced today, that I almost forgot about. I'm a member of the Broadcast Film Critics Association, and the Critics' Choice Awards did announce that Mank was our top nominee this year with 12 nominations, and Minari received 10 nominations, so the number 2 on that list. And the thing that stuck out to me that really shocked and disappointed me, Glenn Close and Hillbilly Elegy. Ooh. I'm not happy about that one. But other than that, it was a great set of nominees.
Yeah, and we did our top 10s earlier this year. Mm-hmm. Mine has since changed. We'll get to that later on the show. Mank is now a number 2 movie. Still a fantastic film, but oh my God, was my mind blown. And you built it up anyway.
Yes.
We'll get to that later. But then I want to talk about TeePublic. If you go to ihatecritics.net, click on the TeePublic link, you can get some of our merch. Someone bought the Willem Dafoe sausage shirt. Thank you for buying that. I saw that come across this week.
Nice.
I wore it last week. This week I had to throw my Marilyn Manson shirts away, and I went with Slipknot. So, but yeah, that's. I'll get back to that next week. Wearing our merch. But let's get right to the movies. So we'll quit wasting your time, folks at home Where did I put the pictures? The YouTube people get to watch me do this, but no one else does. All right. I know our classics was from this movie. We got it, but we'll start with Malcolm and Marie anyway, because it's the big movie from Netflix this week.
And Malcolm and Marie stars John David Washington and Zendaya, directed by Sam Levinson, who's known for making Euphoria on HBO with Zendaya. This is a story about a couple returning home after a movie premiere. The movie was directed by Malcolm, and Marie is his girlfriend. And she may or may not have inspired most of or some of that story, depending upon which side you believe. Throughout this period of time, this entire night, they're going to launch into this incredibly soulful, painful, horrific, verbal sparring session that it just goes back and forth in this series of angry tirades and recriminations. And it is really a pair of tour de force performances going on here. These two people are just battling each other with their words and going for the jugular in a way that I think many couples might actually be able to relate to. People who've gone through this and ended up not together will relate to this. People who went through this and still decided to stay together will relate to this. And maybe not in terms of like the high-end house or the big job, but certainly anybody can relate to the notion of just being in a fight with someone you care about, and yet willingly saying those things that you would never say, or that society tells you to never say. I have once in my life used the C word in an argument with somebody that I love, who is still very close to me, thankfully. You just go for the worst of it when you're in there. And in my review, I referenced Christopher Titus, who has got this special called Norman Rockwell is Bleeding. And it's like Malcolm and Marie, the funny version, because he's going in about Malcolm. He's going in about a fight with he and his future wife at the time. And they had this fight that lasted for days, and they were just throwing these verbal punches at each other. He illustrates it as, like being punched, like, you got a small dick, you're not funny, you have a dinosaur head. Like, it's just these jabs. They're funny, and they're painful, and they're raw, and that's what's going on here. Is these nothing really funny, but certainly raw and vicious things that are taking place between these two. It starts relatively simply with the simple motivation that Marie is not thanked in his speech that he gives after the movie, thanking everybody involved except for her. And she's very certain that most of this movie was based off of her life. She was a drug addict at 20. He helped her get off of drugs. Much of her story was lifted to create the story in his movie. And she feels rightly slighted by that. And for me, that kind of put me on her side and really put him at a disadvantage going through. He does, claw back a little bit, but throughout I was still kind of on her side. And then it kind of occurred to me that it really doesn't matter whose side you're on. Like, sides don't matter in this. What matters is whether these two people are going to decide to stay with each other after they've seen the absolute worst, ugliest, nastiest sides of each other. And that is really up to you in the end, whether you decide that they decided to stay together, or whether you're thinking in your head, she's gone, he's leaving, she's done. It leaves it a list enough ambiguous enough that there's a chance that they might still be together and they might not be.
Yeah, I absolutely love this movie for a number of reasons. One, I've become this huge John David Washington fan. I just love watching him talk, similar to when Oscar Isaac, when we were high on him. I haven't really seen him because he's been doing Star Wars movies. But I mean, it's that's how much I like him as an actor. I still haven't seen Tenet, but I'm sure I'll appreciate at least him in it. Mm-hmm. And he's great in this. Their chemistry is insane. You hear all the critiques going in about the age difference. That only really made me uncomfortable when they were actually loving on each other. But that was really early on, and then after that, it really went away pretty quickly because both actors and John David Washington their chemistry is perfect for this movie. And there's a scene very early on where she says, let's talk about it tomorrow, and I've been in that where it's like, if you do that, everything's going to be fine. It's not that they're letting it sit inside and build up. She knows that it's, she should have been thanked. Could have been an oversight. It shouldn't be a big deal, but it is a big deal to her. She needs to sleep on it. But she can't help but get the dig in on his great night. And he can't let it go. She warns him, let it go. And I've been there. I think all of us have. If you sleep on it, you'll be fine the next day. And it's not something you're going to bottle up and be upset about the next day. Maybe a little bit, but they just, I don't know. These are very real fights. At the same time, I know couples that don't fight like this. And I could see them not relating to a movie like this and therefore thinking it sucks. But these are so real because they make up at least 4 times in this movie, and then they go back into fighting again. And it's sometimes they're doing it at the same time, and it's all, I can just relate to it so much, other than the fact I'm not a director. But in it's just so smart and well written, and it's the perfect COVID movie because you only need the 2 of them and the camera. You don't need a whole lot of people on set. It's filmed in one location. It's just over the course of a night, almost in real time. I don't even know if any time really passes by. It's pretty much just that 2 hours or whatever. I just love it. I love the music in it. I love everything about it. It bums me out that it's not as well received as I'm making out to be. The audience, actually, oddly enough, the audience seems to like it better than the critics did, which I figured to be the other way around.
Yeah, I'm a little bit baffled, honestly, by some of the critical response. I mean, some of it I get where they're coming from, but some of it I don't quite understand. Like the age difference thing really didn't even occur to me. Like this is a type of thing that happens when, I don't even know how old John David Washington is, first of all. And
36.
Zendaya's character is supposed to be, I believe, 22 to 24, if based off of the timeline that they kind of vaguely refer to, because she was 20 when he rescued her. You got to give her a few years beyond that, or the relationship a couple of years beyond that, to kind of make it make sense. So, I mean,
we've accepted way worse.
Yeah,
which is what's frustrating, and not only because I kept hearing about it is why it was weird at first, because
I guess it's weird because Sam Levinson also directs her in Euphoria, where she's playing a teenager. Maybe, I don't know.
That could be, but I mean, she's not naked in it. There's no, I mean, the sexual stuff they're really touching. So that part was the only part where I was even. And again, I brought it to it because I read about it early on. But we've accepted way worse, and I can't help but throw race into it as to why we're making a big deal about it now, as opposed to every other freaking year when it happens multiple times a year. So that's almost a non-issue really, and it should stay that way. I think some of the criticism is flat out wrong. I get where they're coming from. I just think they missed it. I don't know.
I think like I've said, I've been in this fight. I had this fight that lasted for 4 hours. It never turned violent. It just turned verbally ridiculous, the things that people say to each other. And you're just trying to hurt the other person without having to physically harm them. And it's up to you. And every relationship is this thing. We want everything to speak universally, and every relationship is different. This is their dynamic. This is Malcolm and Marie's dynamic. I'm sure they have a fiery relationship going, period. This probably isn't the first time they've had a fight like this. They probably had fights that maybe didn't go this much, into harming each other, verbally, but perhaps they've had other arguments like this. Like they appear to have a fiery dynamic, and some couples do. Some couples they thrive on making each other, dramatic, the big dramatic statements to each other. So, but we want everything to speak to all audiences, and we want everything to speak to us, and we have to relate to it specifically. And I think you have to divorce yourself from that idea that this is Malcolm and Marie's relationship. And while yeah, on the outside, you could look at it and say, well, he's verbally abusive. She's, defending herself or whatever, however you want to look at it like that, or, uh, or they're both verbally abusive. However, and verbal abuse is wrong. If you're verbally abusing people, that's wrong. But you don't know Malcolm and Marie's relationship. This, like we were talking about this with Love Story, like the way they talk to each other, where Ryan O'Neal turns to her and calls her a bitch in a way that sounds mean, but that's also something that they both established that they just kind of do. And if that's the kind of specificity that relationships tend to have, is that level of specificity. And these two are both kind of pushing each other towards places that they haven't been before in their relationship in terms of how truly mean they can be to each other. And I know it sounds like I'm trying to justify verbal abuse. I'm not. I'm saying that you don't know this relationship.
Well, right. I mean, it's like, just because a movie has abuse in it doesn't mean I have to hate the movie. That abuse happens.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is kind of a way of understanding it. And at the same time, it's one of those, I could see them staying together. I could see them, separating. But I believe they love each other so deeply that they have that, because these fights are, while they're being horrible to each other, they're also challenging each other the whole time.
Yeah.
He's challenging him to be a better director. He's challenging her to try. Like, I believe him when he says it's about more than just her.
Mm-hmm.
But I also believe he's exaggerating. He's trying to convince himself of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't. She could have had the role. She didn't even make an effort for the role. And that was one of the fights they had. And he's pushing her to try a little harder and, make herself better. And so there's a challenge in there as well. That's, you can tell it's true love. And the fact that the way they come back around after every fight to some sort of, almost sex, really close to it every time. Totally believable every time they get there. Like, this could really happen that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's how passionate of a relationship they have. At the same time, it's so toxic, maybe you don't want that in your life. Either way, I get it. It's good to be challenged. I think everybody wants someone who's going to push them and challenge them.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, it's on you to improve yourself if they are challenging you.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The whole thing was fascinating. It was so easy to watch. And
there's another aspect to this that people have also talked about. And I'm not saying that critics are upset that this movie goes after a critic. But there's an element to it that is ugly, because the reference he's making is to allegedly the reference is to a writer named Tomer Schlafly, who wrote a negative review of one of his previous movies. Assassination Nation was Sam Levinson's previous movie, and she didn't like it. She said some things about it, and he didn't care for that, and basically calls her out almost specifically by talking about the white woman from the LA Times. And he's basically calling her out specifically in this one, which is kind of ugly. At the same time, though, the way I read that scene is this is a man who actually does like critics. I think this is a meta commentary on this movie and about movie criticism and about movies in general and making movies. I think what he's bringing himself around to is just admitting that this does mean something to him, that he does care about this, even though he's trying to say she doesn't know what she's talking about, this, and this. He's really saying that he does care what they think and what they say, and it does matter to him because he's getting so upset about it. And he's challenging critics to be better and to think more and to be more open. And for critics to respond to that by going, "We're open enough," that's not the way to go with this. He's telling you how much he cares about what you do. And I think that's the point, really, the meta point of this is that he does truly care about what you do, and he respects it, and he wants it to be better at that.
But at the same time, he's saying
he's admitting wrong too in many ways.
He's admitting to being unreasonable.
Yeah.
So that right there is, to me, it makes it less of a blow at this particular film critic, because he's admitting to being unreasonable. And at one point, he's against her. At another point, he's with her, depending on the time in the argument when
Right.
when it supports their part of the fight. And
Yeah.
it's a good review that he's upset about.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. So it's, he's totally admitting to being unreasonable there. And that's back to the whole fighting is when you're in this kind of a mood, you're not reasonable. You can't help but think, I need to talk reason into this person. That's why you keep the argument going. But then you become unreasonable at the same time. And it's so, I don't know. I love it because of how real and authentic it was. That's a word he hated. But even that word, he comes back around.
Right.
And probably the best scene of the whole movie, in my opinion, is when she defines what authentic can be. Just so amazing. I just absolutely love it. I've never seen Euphoria. I didn't know who she was.
Yeah.
But I loved her in this, and he has just been. I mean, this is so impressive to me. I want to see both of them in more things. I might even start watching Euphoria. I mean, I started watching Ballers because of John David Washington. So I may start giving Euphoria a shot because I loved her in this. She just, I don't know. It's such a strong role for both of them. They really get to show off what they can do. This is a must see in my book.
As she gets older, that gaze is only going to get more just penetrating and incredible.
Yeah, but just everything
she gives him a couple looks in this movie though that are just deadly, and it was so cool.
But even the looks of just those are very cool looks. But even the disinterested looks or the
when she walks in the first scene,
yes.
you can sense like him just leaping around the room, happy, excited, elated, singing, and she is done from moment one. She was right on it. She's so good.
And I loved all the music. I loved him with the music. I loved him eating mac and cheese.
That was a great scene. I saw somebody criticizing that like nobody would ever do this. Like hell yeah, they would.
Bullshit. And yeah, they're doing a bit of business, but they're both doing it consistently that it doesn't stand out. I mean, that was my big complaint about There Will Be Blood. Is it's just like Daniel Day-Lewis and Paul Dano doing it, and everybody else is doing something else. Here, they're both doing stuff, over the top, Jack Nicholson-esque kind of, and it's awesome. I love everything about it.
I mean, a week ago, his dad was just doing bits of business in a movie that just looked like bits of business in a very average, mediocre movie. And here, I didn't even think about that for a moment that he was doing a bit of business. I just enjoyed. I recognized that moment. It felt real to me. The way he's just hovering over it, just getting angrier with every bite, just taking bigger bites. Somebody criticized him the way he was eating, like the fork hitting the bowl was too much. Like he's mad. He's eating mad. It's dumb as hell, but it's unreasonable. It's an unreasonable thing.
And he goes and gets more. I mean, it is so I mean, it boggles my mind. I mean, I get it. Because at the same time, people don't want to admit their own. I mean, it does kind of challenge you to look back. I mean, you and I sat and texted back and forth about moments we weren't proud of and admitting it. And even the classic we were going to pick, we weren't proud of it. We kind of felt ashamed. So we went like, you know what? We're going to grow from this. We're not,
right. I was going to
we picked a romantic comedy or a love story with featuring African-American characters because this is a love story that featured African-American characters. And they actually bring that up during the critical review. But we looked at ourselves and we're like, you know what, we can do better. And we did.
That's right.
And there's nothing wrong with trying to better yourself. But some people don't want to look at that and see that, I guess. But it's on Netflix now. I highly recommend it. I mean, I'm curious what y'all think. So get on our Facebook or Twitter and let us know. But I mean, maybe this is controversial. I like him better than his dad. I kind of forgot that Denzel was his dad until you just mentioned it. I mean, Denzel's awesome. Don't get me wrong. Right. And part of the times when his movies don't work, it's because his reputation is what it is that sometimes it distracts from the movie. But John David Washington, I mean, Ballers is a dumb TV show, but he is so awesome in it that it's worth watching.
Yeah.
So I don't know. He's the best. Anything else on Malcolm and Marie?
No, just watch it.
Yes, please. Al Davis versus the NFL. I don't know why I went to this one next. I apologize. 30 for 30.
This is the new 30 for 30 documentary debuted last week on ESPN, and it takes a long look at the story of Al Davis and his battle against the NFL. He's essentially his partners, and why he was always so combative. And the thing about this is the gimmick is that the filmmaker used this deep fake technology to essentially raise the dead. He's bringing back Al Davis and Pete Rozelle from the dead to speak for themselves in the movie. So you see these video game renderings of Al Davis and Pete Rozelle walking into this to the Las Vegas Raiders stadium, and that's weird, and it doesn't quite work for me. But the story is really good, and it's almost shocking to me that they haven't gotten to Al Davis's story already, because he was always so interesting and always full of something to talk about. He was always a controversial figure, when he's moving teams around, or when he's encouraging his guys to cheat, just win, baby. But what this movie does, that really surprised me, when you get past all the deep fake stuff and the raising the dead and whatnot, which is technology that needs to go away immediately, just right now, just kill it before it gets. I mean, I know they brought Lombardi back from the dead in the Super Bowl. I mean, just stop, please.
They brought the singer from Survivor back from the dead too. Did you see that?
No, that's what.
And the Bud Light commercial, The Real Men of Genius.
What?
You didn't see that?
Dead. That guy's dead?
Yeah.
Oh, that's creepy. Oh my God. That is so creepy. I didn't. Oh, that makes
watch the Bud Light commercial again, and you can tell how not real it looks. Yeah.
Wow, that's awful. Yeah. But the really interesting thing about this, though, is that they detail the battle between Davis and Rozelle and how much they despised each other. But when they reached near the end, they turn on you, and suddenly you're looking at Al Davis and you're seeing this supremely compassionate guy who put aside everything at the second that Pete Rozelle falls ill and has to retire. All the stuff that he's ever said about Rozelle goes out the window. He forgets anything that the two of them had ever argued about and just steps forward and hopes the best for him. And then you start hearing from people, what Al Davis did, not his charitable stuff, but just the way that he inspired loyalty within people and how he inspired loyalty within fans. And you're suddenly starting to think, that's a good point. I mean, whether you like the guy or not, he inspired a lot of people to like him and follow him and believe in him. And that's a quality. That is a quality that is pretty admirable. And then when you see that he's this supremely compassionate guy who really did, in the end, just all that stuff didn't matter anymore. He just put it aside immediately and cared about Pete Rozelle in that moment. It was like, wow, that's not the Al Davis that you think of. Like, it's not the, I just didn't expect to see him in such a kind light in that way. And there's these other little things that they do throughout to demonstrate that, he was looking out for the best of himself, but also the best of several other people at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't watch it, but I mean, it makes sense. He's in a way being a salesman, he's got a reputation in front of the cameras to be a certain way. And, there's only a handful of owners I can name, and he's one of them, or was one of them, so because of, Jerry Jones, I don't really care to see his, but maybe he's compassionate too. We'll find. But,
I think Jones cares about money. I don't think Al Davis really cared about money. I really don't. I think he really cared about the Raiders. I think he would have gone broke. He'd rather be broke and the Raiders are winning than have millions of dollars and the Raiders be losing. And that's a quality we don't see anymore. That in the corporatized NFL today, you don't see that. They're going to do everything they can to make money first. And hey, maybe we'll get lucky and win some games. Al Davis is like, fuck it. I'll do whatever it takes. I want these guys to win games. Take all of my money.
Yeah, I don't think you see that in any sports anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember
attitude is completely replaced by the corporate mentality.
Yeah, I remember wanting the Cubs to get a non-corporate owner. Like, we wanted the Tribune to get rid of the Cubs, so they got a person in there to own the team. And I was so excited when Ricketts won out. Granted, we got a World Series out of it.
Right.
But they clearly only care about money. They just happen to get lucky and win a World Series in the process. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's what makes his story the last great one, because I can't, Jerry Reinsdorf kind of wants it, but he's still, he could always go all out and get it if he wanted it, and he doesn't. They blew up the Bulls. They could have probably won one or two more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably is Al Davis, the last one that truly cared. So Steinbrenner maybe. Yeah, that's fascinating. I'll have to check that one out. Everybody's always like, you need to watch this 30 for 30. I'm like, okay, I will someday. And then I end up watching like the dumb ones, like Sosa versus McGuire. All right, let's move on. Little Fish.
Little Fish stars Olivia Cooke and Jack O'Connell and is directed by Andrew Hartigan and tells the story of a romance in a very unique way. This is a couple that has met and begun a relationship just at the same time that sorry to have to say this, a global pandemic has hit. This particular pandemic is causing people to lose their memories. So, you begin to forget everything. And the way they set it up is that this can happen immediately and horrifically, or this can happen gradually over time. And you have to just sit there and painfully and horrifically watch this person who you love just slowly slip away and forget who you are. That is an incredible conceit. It has some sci-fi elements to it. And but it's about this romance and this relationship between Olivia Cooke and Jack O'Connell, which is a really wonderful relationship. They've got amazing chemistry. They're wonderful together. I bought in on them immediately. And I bought in on this premise. Is really smart. That's a really clever premise that they really work very well. And then it's got a great look to it. Andrew Hartigan's got a really terrific eye for solid visuals, great color, wonderful cinematography. I really just adored so much of this movie, and I can't say enough good things about it. I really do love this movie. And then it's got an ending that that I'm not sure about. I'm not quite sure what happened at the end, but I'm okay with that because I liked everything else about the movie, even though the ending kind of confounded me just a little bit. I was still on board for everything else because this is such a well-made movie, and it's got a big heart, and it's smart about its romance.
That's cool. It was between this and a movie I ended up watching, which we'll get to later. But it was really hard because the other one cost $20. So, but this one looks so good as well. But yeah,
I really like this movie. I've got an interview coming out tomorrow with the director, Andrew Hartigan, nice, which I'll share on our Facebook. He's a really interesting guy and really just made a terrific movie. Like, there are moments in this movie that are just heartbreaking. One of their friends, who's a guitar player, begins to lose his memory, and they have to watch him slowly slip away. And they try to save him, and they try and figure out ways to try and keep him going. And you're just watching that happen. And then, obviously based on the economy of characters, it's going to happen to either Olivia or Jack, and you're just helpless to stop that. And you're just kind of watching them both to see which one it's going to happen to at that point.
Was this a pre-COVID made movie or no?
I don't know. And it's out now via IFC.
All right. Hedwig and the Witch, is that right?
Earwig.
Earwig and the Witch. I kid. I didn't have the title up here. I apologize.
Earwig and the Witch is from Goro Miyazaki, who is the son of Hayao Miyazaki, and it's the first all computer animated version of a cartoon from Studio Ghibli, which is of course the home of Hayao Miyazaki. It is the story of Earwig, who is a baby. When we see her as a baby given to an orphanage, they rename her Erica, but her backstory is that she's the daughter of this redheaded woman there, who you see, and she grows up she has to give her up because she's being chased by witches. She gives up Earwig to this orphanage. Years later, these two witches show up to adopt her. They end up adopting her almost seemingly not intentionally. They bring her in as a second set of hands, essentially just to have her work around the house. Not even, I don't think they're aware of her origin story. But she starts working for these witches and she wants to know more about witchcraft. And we're supposed to go along and I'm thinking find out about her backstory eventually. But this is a weird movie because the second act of this movie ends and then the movie ends. Like in this, we're starting the third act now. No, the movie's over. What? The ending of this movie is utterly bizarre because in every other movie, this would be the start of the third act and the spin-off into another story, into the end of the story. And instead, we reach the end of the second act and the movie ends, and you're just baffled. This is not a good movie. The animation is okay. It's a group of people that who've never really worked on one of these kind of movies before, so it's impressive from the fact that it's better than other garbage CGI movies from people who may have done it a few times. But you can see from there, it's colorful. It's colorful as hell, and it's got some ideas. But I don't know that they had a full script when they went to film it, because the ending is just one of the most abrupt things outside of maybe that movie that told you to go watch the ending on the internet. Like,
it sounds more like Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, just in between two movies. I mean, this picture looks cool. I mean, all the instruments look real, but again, it's a still. So, what does it have to do with rock and roll? Anything?
Mom was the lead singer of a band. Before she got pregnant and she got chased by witches, and the witches were trying to steal her baby, and that was pretty much it. Although they've made this image we're looking at here on our YouTube at the center point of their campaign, even though it has a very minor part to do with the actual movie.
See, I want to see this movie as the Nancy Wilson story or something like that from Heart. Oh, yeah. I passed on it. Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right.
More Than Miyagi, the Pat Marita Story.
Yes, this is a documentary about Pat Marita, the man who was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for The Karate Kid. This takes you back to his origin story when he got into the entertainment business, and even before, it takes you back to when he was a kid who, at 2 years old, they thought would never walk. And he spent 8 years in a hospital learning how to walk from the age of 2 to the age of 8. At the age of 8, he walked out of the hospital and immediately into a World War II internment camp where his parents were. He goes from this, what was like a family to him at this hospital, to two people who had put him in that hospital and rarely ever seen him while he was there. And now he's in an internment camp on top of that. He goes on to have a relatively normal life until he hit 30. And then he decides, you know what, I think I should be a comedian. And so he starts a comedy career in the mid to late 1960s. And he's doing stand-up in San Francisco. He gets spotted by somebody who refers him to Lenny Bruce's mom, who was Lenny Bruce's manager. And she loved him. She fell in love with him immediately and started putting him on TV. And he ended up getting TV gigs. And from there, of course, he goes to Happy Days and to Karate Kid. And there's that. But what many people don't know, other than obviously probably most people don't know about his comedy career, but a lot of people also don't know about how his life ended, which is tragic. He was a serious drunk from the age of 30 until the day he died. He was drunk every single day, according to what he said. He was what some people have referred to, and some people don't believe this exists. He was referred to as a functional alcoholic. He was able to show up on set and be beloved by his co-stars, but he openly admitted to a couple of different people while he was making The Karate Kid, he was drunk every single day, whether you could tell or not. And that there's a drunk scene in Karate Kid that people talk about a lot. That was very authentic because he just drank a little more that day so he could make it as authentic as possible. And those are some of the stories that this movie tells. And it's all very compelling because he's a really interesting guy. I do recommend it. That said, there are aspects of this that are, I think I think this movie demonstrates something very important about our society, and that is trying to carry two different thoughts in your head at the same time. This movie doesn't go into race too much. It gets there a little bit, but it backs away as quickly as it can because it doesn't really want to spend too much time focused on that. But I got to say this, and I want to preface this. I don't like saying this, but it's the only way to say this. It is a racial slur that I have to put forward here so you'll understand the context of what we're talking about. Because on marquees nationwide, comedy clubs nationwide, the marquee and the posters would say, Pat Marita, the hip nip. That was the marketing campaign when Pat Marita came to town. He would open up comedy bits by saying, by first apologizing for Pearl Harbor. That was his shtick. He was doing Andy Kaufman bits before Andy Kaufman because he would go out there pretending to have this thick Japanese accent. And he goes, then pause halfway through going, why the fuck am I talking like this? I don't talk like that. So some of it was subverting race, but also, some of it was he had to live into that. And that is deeply problematic in many ways. Not his fault. He was just living to the society as it was at the time. But we often hear people say, well, that's just the way it was back then. And we forget that it was wrong then and it's wrong now, And the other two thoughts that you have to hold in your head is that Pat Morita didn't talk like Mr. Miyagi. That was not his accent. He was asked to speak that way by a white guy. White guy asked him to talk like that. A white guy pursued him to be this karate master character because he's Asian and well known, and it's racially problematic to simply approach an actor to be a karate master because they're Asian. That is literally. But you have to hold two thoughts in your head because Karate Kid, great performance, phenomenal performance. He is great in that movie. But the same thought is, it's still racially problematic that it came from that perspective. So you can have these two thoughts in your head that the thing that was wrong and the thing that went well. Those are two different thoughts. You can carry them both in your head, and that's okay.
Yeah. Did they address any of that?
A little, not nearly enough. He actually took a picture, and it's one of the. I groaned so hard. There's a picture of him hugging Mickey Rooney in the movie. And God, they show a little bit of Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's. And it just, anytime I see that, it turns my stomach.
Was he bothered by any of it? Did they go into that part of it or not really?
He was so drunk most of the time, he didn't give a fuck. He was just trying to get paid. He was just a guy who's just doing a job trying to get paid. And he was really kind to everybody. He never complained that anybody could say that he ever complained about it. But he also was drinking a lot. So I'm imagining this was weighing on him a great deal, even if he didn't talk about it.
No, I had a friend you knew him. He was a failed Asian comedian, ended up being a writer instead. He often made Asian jokes about himself and whatnot. And I mean, he didn't really care, but at the same time, it's like it's his story to tell, not mine. It's
Right.
I'm not the one who gets to go and say, "Hey, talk like this," and go do that. That's it, yeah. That's a good point. There's two things going on at the same time. That I mean, I was listening to Salma Hayek on Mark Maron's podcast today, and they were talking about. I mean, we mentioned Marilyn Manson earlier. They were talking about that, and they got into Harvey Weinstein, and she goes, everybody is not one thing. There was good things Harvey Weinstein did. That said, he needs consequences. So, it doesn't mean you need to be defined by one thing, but if you're going to do one thing that's horrible to people, you need to pay the consequences for it. And it just, life is such a complicated thing.
Yeah.
And I get what you're saying there. And I want to see this. I haven't had a chance to check it out. My wife did want to watch a documentary the night we watched a movie, so we didn't. But at some point, I'm sure I'll watch it because, I mean, I've been watching Cobra Kai. I like Mr. Miyagi is one of the most popular characters in the history of film. I mean, probably a top 100 for sure. If you had to list names that anybody could say, who is this person? What movie are they from? Mr. Miyagi's up on that list as a character everybody knows. So that's
just stop saying wax on, wax off with the accent. I know you think you're paying tribute. It's not. Don't do that. Just stop. Let's all stop with that, please.
Just say it. You don't need to make a noise. All right. I finally saw Promising Young Woman.
Is that your quote at the top? Game-changing masterpiece?
No, but it might as well be. I mean, the movie I loved so much last year was The Hunt. And for the very similar reasons, I like this movie just better. This movie's got balls and a half. For the lack of a better phrase, because balls are really sensitive and really aren't that impressive. If you really think about it.
Yeah, I mean, they're the most vulnerable part of a man's body, to be real.
Meanwhile,
the bigger they are, the more dangerous they'd be.
Right. Meanwhile, a pussy can take a pounding. And regardless, this movie is fucking badass, and it goes to a place where you told me it was going somewhere, and I still didn't know where it was going. And I was just like, holy shit, that was awesome. I could not, I just would have never thought they would have. And maybe now that I'm preaching it up, somebody might, having not seen this, but I mean, this is just such a great movie about a troubled woman dealing with memories in her past, and just so much going on in this movie. And everything you said about it when we talked about it, which if you want to reiterate some of that stuff, where she's going through two things at once. She's got this horrible memory of her friend who was sexually assaulted and raped, who ended up killing herself, and the guys weren't even punished a little bit for it.
Right.
Her feelings for that are 100% accurate, but at the same time, you want her to have a normal life. She's 30, living at home with her parents, getting all dressed up, pretending to be drunk, so drunk that they need a nice guy to take her home and take care of her. And then every nice guy, stops being a nice guy and does something stupid. And she just wakes up out of her drunkenness, because she's not really drunk, and just says, "What are you doing?" And the look on every guy's face. And you got all these guys are known guys. I mean, they're not super, it's McLovin. It's, guys like
Adam
that
Brody.
kind of, Adam Brody, the guy at the end, Bo Burnham. All these guys you've seen them in movies as fun little character actors.
It's a clever casting throughout.
Oh,
because,
absolutely.
they're absolutely the perfect guys for these materials right here. This is absolutely perfect. Usually in a movie, you look at these guys and they're the heroes. These guys are the heroes of every other movie from like the early 2000s. That's this movie is like a perfect deconstruction of those movies that, movies that played up the idea of I need to pick up a drunk girl and take her home and have a good time. Like, this is the other side of that. This is totally flipping the script on that. And it's like, oh shit.
I'm so glad I've never, ever, ever done anything like that.
Nope.
Not even really thought of it.
Mm.
But when Me Too first started, there was part of it was like, well, I don't know guys that actually do that. I know in the movies they do, and I don't know guys that actually say that shit. And then I'm not kidding you, my roommate in college, known him for, we lived together for 4 freaking years. We went and saw Guns N' Roses, and all of a sudden we're driving back to his apartment. And he rolls down his windows and starts catcalling girls. I'm like, seriously? People actually do this shit? And, my job was supposed to be to shut him up and tell him to stop doing that. But I was so shocked. I was just like, oh my God, this is real.
Yeah.
Just what this movie does is it's just so good and creepy, and you feel so bad for her. You just want her to have a normal life. And there's a chance she could. But you get why she doesn't, and then where it goes. I mean, you kind of see it, and then where it keeps going, you're just like, wow. Talk about writing, that's just impressive. I love what they did, and I don't know. I absolutely love this movie. It's so dark, but in such a good way, game-changing way. It's perfect way. The critical, whatever the tagline is, game-changing masterpiece on the poster we're looking at on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I love this movie.
It is phenomenal. It should have been higher on my year-end list, honestly. I really did love this movie a lot. I've seen it 4 times now, so it's really had the opportunity to grow for me. It's just so good. She's incredible. Carey Mulligan is incredible. Emerald Fennell is incredible. And the stuff with Bo Burnham, he is so good. He is the perfect choice, and he really just plays every aspect of that role to perfection.
And back to the casting, I mean, everybody in it you recognize, from Connie Britton to Alison Brie. You need those semi-recognizable faces, even if you know them as the girl from Friday Night Lights or whatever. You need that recognizable face here to make it that much more, just resonate more. And yeah, I mean, none of them want to be associated with this kind of behavior in real life, right. But they do such a good job in this movie. Alison Brie in particular, that scene, I've seen people do this in real life. I've watched women say, well, why did they wait so long? Therefore, it must not be real. Like, there's 50 people that were drugged by Bill Cosby. You got to quit saying there, why did they wait so long? It's not real. And then the great line at the end by what's the one actor we haven't named, the one that Al, whatever, that character.
Chris Lowell?
Yeah. Where he was like, every guy's worst nightmare to be accused of.
Yeah.
And that is true. Her response is, God, imagine what every woman's worst nightmare is. And it's
savage. It's beautiful. And I let Max Greenfield from New Girl play.
Yeah.
I was now that I'm thinking about it, just in this moment, I'm thinking this is like the logical end for Stifler from American Pie. If you played that out, that character that way, further out in the future, this is where it goes. That's horrible, but it's true.
Well, yeah, and even maybe not Jason Biggs' character, but kind of the jock choir boy guy. He, he's the nice guy in American Pie, but you could see him being the nice guy in this movie and doing something stupid. That gang mentality. We talked about it with I Spit on Your Grave. Part of what they wanted to do with that was have guys who individually might not do something like that, but when they get together, they just act different. Mm-hmm. And you buy that in this movie, and I don't know, everything about it's haunting, it's terrifying, it's sad, it's just fascinating. She is so good, Carey Mulligan, in this movie. The parents, you recognize them.
Yeah, Clancy Brown and Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah, Stifler's mom.
Yeah, ironically enough, yes.
It is the perfect.
And McLovin, again, perfect choice,
Any one of those kids from Superbad could have been, these guys. Absolutely the best movie of last year for its originality, its filmmaking, its acting. Everything about it is perfect, and that's why, I love The Hunt because it was dark, but it wasn't perfect enough. Like this is just full-blown perfect. And Mank's great, but it's just more just showing off. It's like, who do you like better, Eddie Van Halen or Kurt Cobain? This is the Kurt Cobain, and Mank was Eddie Van Halen. They're both awesome, but this one just is going to stand out for something I've never seen before. That caught me off guard and was every bit worth spending $20 on.
Yeah, I gotta give props to the music. That remix of Britney Spears at the end is so good. It's the remix of Toxic that is on the sound. The soundtrack is amazing all the way through. The original songs, Paris Hilton, perfect. It's all perfect. But that remix on Britney at the end is just it's the best music moment of any movie of the last 10 years.
I can't argue. I suppose I could think of something and try, but it's not. I agree with you. One, Toxic's like the one pop song that most rock guys can get behind, but two, you're right. The way the string arrangement of it. It's in the trailer. It's haunting. That's how a good way to describe the song. But I don't know, man. You got to see this movie and see where they go. Even if you know where they go, it's still going to shock you, I think. Mm-hmm. Just so fantastic. I absolutely love this movie, and I'm glad I finally got to see it. All right. Should we move on to our classic before we go to bed? All right, I'm going to play the song real quick. Maybe. And the YouTube people at home, the reason you can't hear the bumpers is because I have a bad cord that doesn't go back into the computer. So you're just kind of hearing me through my computer audio.
Yeah.
You are hearing Sean, though, properly. Faces, John Cassavetes.
1968, starring Jenna Rowlands and Robert Markle. This is a story of two halves of a couple in different ways. The central couple is actually not Jenna Rowlands and the other man, but him and his wife are the actual couple at the center of it. And a lot of this spins off from him coming home and saying, "I want a divorce," and her reaction to that to throw a party and have people over and perhaps get into something that she didn't expect to get into that night. And he's off pursuing this woman who is a prostitute and kind of falling in love with her, or sort of there's a lot of complications going on. The thing about this is not so much necessarily a typical story being told. This is a series of conversations that are taking place, and they're all conversations that are kind of dancing around what everybody really wants to say or is really thinking. And there's a lot of people just singing things to kind of avoid actually having to talk. It's kind of the anti Malcolm and Marie in that way for a time, just because nobody wants to say the thing that they really want to say. It's a fascinating film that's filled with close-ups and playing on people's faces and just that one singular tear falling. And the beautiful, beautiful black and white cinematography of this is just, it's lovely. And the space that he uses, the way a face takes up the entire screen and you're just forced to deal with that person, and you kind of, they lose the space around them and it's just a face, and you have to come to terms with that and what they're doing and what they're saying and what they mean, and maybe how what they mean isn't what their face is conveying. That is such a clever and phenomenal way to approach making a movie, and to be confrontational with a camera in a way that is very different, even as the words are all kind of not really matching what anybody's actually doing. Only occasionally, the people who really speak their minds are the ones who are really assholes, and everybody else is an asshole too, but they're not saying anything. They're not saying what he's saying. They're all kind of assholes in a way. I really appreciate this movie. It's very early Cassavetes, so there's some lagging here and there. There's some just lingering on things that you're kind of waiting for the payoff that doesn't come. But otherwise, it's really an impressive piece of work.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you find yourself just asking questions. Where does he start with the gimmick? Was the idea, of using the faces in the close-up where he wanted? Was that where it all started? Did he write the story? The fact that there's like 15 different versions of this movie on top of that, all at different running lengths. But it's a neat movie, and you buy into it too. I mean, like you said, it's the anti. Oh my God, I forgot their names.
Malcolm and
Marie. But at the same time, it's like, it wouldn't be though if they were just hiding what they truly felt.
Mm-hmm.
I can relate to this one as much as I can relate to that one, because there's been days where you are thinking one thing and saying something else. That's a very real thing too. It was very neat. I do like the more modern Malcolm and Marie better. Mm-hmm. But it's just part of it's being that it's so old, and
there's a lot. There's also stuff like some 60s stuff that doesn't really translate to today. There are things that you hear them talking about,
right,
that don't quite relate to. And I'm trying to think of a good example, but it's there. That some of the musical references, I think, are very specific of the time, and there are a lot of things that couch it in that 1968 period. But the movie is still the thing that you relate to, the thing that you can recognize is how confrontational it is, especially about sexuality and middle age. And there's this one character in the movie this woman who's in her late 50s, early 60s, and desperately wants to be 20 years younger, and is acting out as a person who's much younger than she is. And she's coming on to this younger male character and really wanting him to be into her. And the desperation of that, it is so hard to watch. It is so cringy, but it's intended to make you kind of cringe at her and feel for her. Your heart goes out to her. At the same time, if this person came at you at a party, you would be horrified and trying to do everything you could to be as nice as possible while you're trying to put her off. Yes. Seymour Cassell plays the character who's with her, and he goes as far as he possibly can to be as kind as possible, to the point where he probably takes it way too far in flattering her. But it turns out he's just a really super nice guy in that way, and he goes on to be, I don't know how to call him a heroic character. There's no heroes in this movie, but at the very least, I thought for a minute when something begins to happen that he was just going to leave. I thought he was on his way out the door, and he didn't leave, and that kind of impressed me. And then, there's a clip of him on YouTube, a clip from that scene where it's just Seymour Cassell just slapping this woman over and over, and you're thinking, this is awful, this is horrific. Why is this? And then you watch it, and contextually, they kind of bring that around and make that give you a better idea why he's doing that. He's not abusing her, to say the least. And at least at a certain point, it goes a little. Again, he takes everything a little too far. That's kind of his character,
right?
But that's what makes it exciting and interesting. And his performance is weird and strange, and Everybody's performance is kind of weird and strange.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. But again, it's back to they're all doing the same thing. They're all in the same movie. I mean, not doing the same thing. They're all doing their own thing, but it's all weird and strange. And because they're all on board and invested in that, it actually works that way. I know the name John Cassavetes. I don't know enough about him as the director. I know a lot of the greats reference him.
He saved Scorsese's life.
Really?
Yeah.
What else has he done that I would know, or if anything?
He did. Let's see. Woman Under the Influence, The Killing of a Chinese Bookie. There's a few other ones that I'm just not remembering. He worked with Peter Falk a lot. Jenna Rollins was his wife and was in most of, if not all of his movies.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth checking out.
He's one of those directors like Bogdanovich kind of is a director's director. All of the directors love them. Maybe audiences don't know as much about them.
Yeah.
The main reason you probably know Cassavetes is because he was in Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, that would explain it. I knew, like I said, I know the name. I can't, it's not like I could be like, oh, The Godfather. It doesn't seem to have that one. But yeah, I mean, it's neat, if nothing else. And it worked well with Malcolm and Marie. Seeing those back-to-back nights really did play well and help me get through this one.
I wonder if critics upset at the time that we've got this 60-something dude trying to bang Jenna Rollins. I mean, I know she's playing a prostitute, but come on, she's like in her 20s. He's in his 60s.
I mean, I feel like every classic we watch, we've had that conversation. I mean, those guys are almost always in their 50s or 60s, and their leading ladies are in their 20s, like every time. So, but yeah, that's Faces. Give it a shot if I saw it on Amazon. Or no, where was it? HBO.
Yeah, HBO's got it right now, and it is in the Criterion Collection as well.
Yeah, so check it out if you get a chance. Expand your horizons. Julia Roberts, Sleeping with the Enemy, turned 30 this week.
Can you believe that? It's been 30 years since this movie came out. That's crazy, because I have very distinct memories of this, because she took a movie that was a $17 million budget and turned it into a nearly $200 million hit. And it stinks. It's a terrible film. It just shows that she was the one incredible star, because she could take a movie with Patrick Bergen in it that should be airing on Cinemax at like 10:30 at night, and she made it a massive blockbuster. That's just how big she was. This is a movie about an abused woman, and that's not a funny topic. But the movie is just bad about being about that. Patrick Bergen plays a guy who's if Patrick Bateman had a terrible mustache, he could be this guy. And there's a weirdly fetishized thing here. The director fetishizes the body of Patrick Bergen very early in this movie. You see him working out and he's all sweaty, and then he's getting up in his face and he's got that perfect mustache. He's just absorbing. You get to see his ass for a minute. Like, he's just absorbing Patrick Bergen. Meanwhile, Julia Roberts is right there, dude. She's right there, and not getting nearly as much. But then he's also the evil bastard abuser, which also gives you kind of a weird dynamic. Anyway, the point is that she's being abused. She finds a way to escape. She escapes to Sioux Falls, Iowa, of all places, where she holes up and lives in this town, and she is living by herself in a house, and she finds that she's got this neighbor who is a really nice guy. He's a drama teacher at a nearby college, and they develop a relationship. And of course, Patrick Bergen's going to track her down and figure out where she is. The movie turns into this like proto slasher movie. Like, it doesn't want to admit it's a horror movie, but it is, because he's essentially Jason. I mean, he can do anything. He can be anywhere. How does a guy in Cape Cod suddenly figure out that the woman that he was married to faked her own death and is living in Sioux Falls, Iowa? Like, come on, really? Nah, not by Cedar Falls. Sorry, Cedar Falls. The way they get that to that is just stupid. It's just dumb. And he actually just shows up at her house But of course, this scene is fucking brilliant because he has this thing where everything has to be orderly. And if it's not orderly, he would beat her up. Right. So he has to have his cabinets arranged perfectly. He has to have the towels have to be hung at the exact length. Like everything has to be perfect. And so when she returns home after a date with her neighbor and she walks in the house, the first thing that she notices when she goes into the bathroom, the towels are straightened. And then she walks downstairs and she looks in the cabinet. Oh, good. The cabinet's not rearranged. But then when the lights go out and she walks back to the cabinet, what's happened? He's arranged the cabinet. Like, what are you doing, dude? You're there to fucking kill her. Just fucking kill her. Why are you fucking with the fucking cabinets? It's just so we can have the big reveal where she opens the door and the cabinets are arranged. And it's like, you honestly thought this would be a big scare scene? Like, no, that's just fucking stupid. We're all just sitting there going, why the fuck would he waste his time with that? He's got a fucking gun.
I mean, not that it gives us any logic, but people do have OCD, like for real. So,
but this isn't well established enough.
I know.
This is just movie business that's very, very obvious and very, very not well. I mean, it's established so much that it's like it's not surprising when it happens.
You feel like you're back in the writer's room with a bunch of studio heads. It takes you out of the authenticity. We've used that word a lot this episode.
And that's the thing. Yeah. Roger Ebert says that like the first 10 or 15 minutes of this movie are like a masterpiece. He's like, he was thinking this is going to be like a home run movie. And he's not wrong about that. Like the architecture, the beach set, the violence, is all kind of, it is kind of, grab you, kind of hold you in place for a little while. But once she leaves and he starts looking for her, it just turns into, a horror film. And it's a really bad horror film at that point.
Is this the movie when she realized she was a star? I mean, I know obviously Pretty Woman made her a star, but
this kind of cemented that because it was such a huge hit.
Yeah. I mean, they don't make stars anymore. It's weird.
That's true.
I mean, I don't know who was the last one. I mean, I guess Tom Cruise. But I mean, if he's not in a Mission Impossible movie, it's not a guarantee it's going to make money.
Yeah.
The Mummy. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I remember not liking it.
It's dumb. It's dumb as hell.
But she was fucking huge.
Yeah, massive star. Deservedly so. She's great.
LA Story.
I didn't see this one. I'm not sure I think it is available, but you have to buy it, and I just didn't want to buy it. Yeah. I remember seeing it and hating it as a kid because it's not funny, and it should be funny.
Steve Martin wrote it, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a guy that every comedian, references Steve Martin as like one of the icons, one of the guys that got him into it.
Yeah.
And I keep trying to go back and understand that. And I mean, I'm sure it's real. It's just,
I think it's anti-comedy. I'm not sure, but I think he does anti-comedy. And
Will Ferrell does, though, if you think about it. I mean, part of what Will Ferrell's charm is being so dumb that it's funny again.
Yeah.
Well, and sometimes it works.
That was what Steve Martin was doing with like, King Tut and all that shit. Like or the drug stuff that he did. It was like, it's so dumb that it's funny. And the arrow through the head. Like it was meta stupidity. That's not this. This is him trying to be sophisticated comedian, Steve Martin, and doing highbrow comedy, and it's not funny.
Well, and he is probably more sophisticated in real life than he is in this.
Well, he tried to do that with Roxanne too. Like Roxanne has, should be a lot more, ballsy and laugh out loud than it is, and he's trying to do something. He's trying to do, Cyrano, and he's actually doing Cyrano, and it's like, Steve, that's not really what we're looking for.
You saw this, of course. American Ninja 4: The Annihilation. I feel like we've done this like every year.
I've never missed a David Bradley movie ever.
What about Michael Dudikoff?
Have you checked to see if Michael Dudikoff's website is still up and running?
Not in a while. I tried to get him on the podcast once, and we talked about his movies more often. But I swear to God, American Ninja 4 Annihilation's popped up like 3 times.
I feel like it has, but yeah, no. I didn't get a chance to watch this. I apologize. I know I failed the podcast for not doing my Dudikoff, but
okay. Maybe one day we'll get him to be a Patreon version. It'd be fun to.
There you go. That's a Patreon tier right there. You can buy it.
I mean, he's got to be on board.
Buy a Michael Dudikoff episode.
I mean, I don't know. You think he laughs at himself at this? I mean, I got to imagine if you're making movies like this, you were having fun with yourself, your career. I mean, we're all having fun with ourselves, I guess, at some point. And then The Never Ending Story 2, the next chapter.
Yeah, I have no clue what that is anymore. I didn't.
Whatever happened to the star of that movie? That kid that was so.
Oh, who is that?
I don't know.
All right, hang on.
Recognize his face, but.
Oh, I hope it's not who I'm thinking it is, because that would be sad. Oh shit.
It is.
Oh no! Yeah, it is. He's dead. In case you didn't know, he sadly, it's Jonathan Brandis, and he took his own life.
Gotcha. That's
2003.
Yeah, I remember seeing him all the time as a kid.
Yeah, he was on a lot of stuff. Sequest DSV and Top Dog with not Top Dog. No, he was in a movie with Chuck Norris.
Yeah. And then George Miller made this movie.
Yeah.
What has he done? I know he's done the Mad Max movies, and then these. What else is he? I mean, Mad Max Fury Road is so good, like so far and beyond these movies, the other Mad Max movies.
You don't remember his Dancing Penguin movies?
No.
He did those Dancing Penguin cartoons.
Okay. Does he have anything else that stands out? I mean,
maybe off the top of my head, I don't remember.
I mean, I know if Revert, is one of the better directors, but it was just like, to me, it's like Mad Max Fury Road's way up here, and everything else just kind of somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. Yeah.
I mean, I can appreciate the other Mad Maxes for the way they look, but the movies themselves are boring as fuck.
I agree. I'm not a fan of the other ones.
All right, next week, what we have is, let's see here, Judas and the Black Messiah is on HBO Max. Red Dot is on Netflix. The Map of Tiny Perfect Things is on Amazon. To All the Boys, Always and Forever is on Netflix. There Is No I in Threesome. That is on HBO Max. Can't wait for that one. You've also seen a movie called X and French Exit. I don't know if those are available or not, but we'll see.
X is available tomorrow on streaming rental for sure. I'm not sure about French Exit. It might just be in theaters.
All right. So I'll keep an eye out for that. Because of the threesome movie, we're going to make the classic Bob, Carol, Ted, and Alice. We're going to one-up it and do a foursome. A real classic is Silence of the Lambs from 1991. It turns 30.
Yeah.
That along with the great King Ralph, Cadence, and Nothing But Trouble.
And I am not going to be watching the new CBS series Starling, or Clarice, or whatever the fuck it's called.
Oh my God, it looks so bad. Why the fuck is she carrying a lamb at one point? It's like, come on. Don't, if you're going to do this, do it right. Don't get rid of the moth or whatever. Just make it its own thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better than the ads, but the ads were terrible.
Yeah, they were not good.
Before I let you go, I want to have you go to patreon.com/criticspod to help support the podcast, get yourself a credit on the show, and then tpublic at ihatecritics.net. Get yourself some merch. All right. I don't know how long our battery's going to last. We'll just, I'm getting the notice that it's running low, so we'll just see how this goes.
All right.
Predators, RoboCop 2.
Predators.
Agreed. Space Cowboys, The Rock.
The Rock.
Agreed.
By the way, I interviewed a guy who is in Willy's Wonderland with Nicolas Cage, which is actually opening in theaters this week. I've not seen it. I won't see it if it's just in theaters because I can't go to the theater. But David Sheftel's his name. And he says that while this is a crazy Nicolas Cage movie with all the crazy Nicolas Cage stuff, Nicolas Cage could not be a nicer, more professional, friendly guy.
Awesome.
I thought that was interesting.
Disorderlies, Mad Max.
Fuck you, Flick Chart. Mad Max, I guess. I don't know. I'm never watching Disorderly, so.
Saturday Night Fever, Rat Race.
I mean, you can't really comment here.
No.
Saturday
So I'll
Night
let you
Fever.
do it.
I hate Rat Race.
Carlito's Way, Dog Soldiers.
I've not seen Dog Soldiers. Yeah.
Carlito's Way, Thor, The Dark World.
I know what I'm supposed to say.
I can't really comment on this either. I've never seen Carlito's Way. So,
No? Let's just get rid of Carlos Way.
2 years we'll talk about it. Howard Stern's Private Parts or Thor, The Dark World.
Private Parts. Greatest radio movie ever made.
The Other Guys, Milk.
Milk.
Yeah. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Taken.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
The Galaxy Quest, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
I mean, I like Galaxy Quest. I think Benjamin Button's not my favorite Fincher, obviously, but I think it's incredibly well made. It's a little overlong and a little overwrought, but I mean, it's incredible in terms of the every other aspect of it other than the story.
Well, the entertainment value is not there, but it is.
So I guess since I'd watched Galaxy Quest first, I guess that, but I kind of want to watch Benjamin Button again.
Someday, and I have no problem making out a classic eventually. Just gotta make sure it's a good movie that we're watching it with, not a bunch of homework on top of homework. The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, or 1 hour photo.
1 hour photo.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Clear and Present Danger.
Monty Python.
I hate those. I like Monty Python. I hate the is it Jack Ryan movie? The Princess and the Frog, Me, Myself, and Irene.
Princess and the Frog.
Judge Dredd, Superbad.
Superbad.
I've had to defend Judge Dredd like my whole life because I mean everybody knew I was a Stallone fan, and then that came out like senior year of high school or junior year of high school, and it was just like, so now what? What about Judge Dredd? And like, it would have been better if it figured out. Jurassic World, 1408.
It's actually 1408. Turns out I really liked that movie.
Yeah.
I had a very funny moment reading my old review of it. Like, wow, I really like that movie a lot.
That's literally my like pin code on all my like devices, just because I know the name of the movie and no one ever think of it. I don't necessarily like it. I think I like Jurassic World better, but probably you've seen both more recently than I have, or at least are aware of both. Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. What We Are, What We Are.
I don't know what that one is. I don't know that one at all.
Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. Copland.
Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, this is hard for me because that was a big episode on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And then Copland's insanely disappointing, but it's still good. It just should have been better. I'll just say podcast 6. I like that, man. But I like Copland. It just should have been a little better.
Yeah.
Hot Shots, The Great Gatsby, 2013.
I'm going to hang my head in shame and say Hot Shots.
No, probably say Hot Shots. The Professional or The Cider House Rules?
The Professional. Anything's better than The Cider House Rules.
Oh, fuck these two movies. Easy A, Scent of a Woman.
Easy A.
Gone Girl, Turner and Hooch.
Gone Girl. Don't even wave the mouse over that.
Accidentally choose Turner and Hooch. This is weird. Signs are A Clockwork Orange.
It's weird, but I actually find it very easy to pick Signs here because I would watch Signs in a second. I love Signs. I think I can defend Signs, honestly.
I love Signs too. Clockwork Orange is just so fascinating because it's so offensive.
It's incredible, but I'm not going to watch it tomorrow. But if Signs were on, I'm fucking watching Signs.
So I might watch Clockwork Orange tomorrow.
I don't mind if we flip because I can't really lose in this one. They're both good.
Yeah, I mean, again, I agree. To me, like, I love Signs. It's a Clockwork Orange. It's more. I like it on a commercial level, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it's great. It's scary. I love the way everything about it. I find Clockwork Orange so fascinating because I can't figure out if I like it or not. Annie Hall, American History X.
Annie Hall.
Obviously. Matilda, Horror of the Spider Island.
Never seen it.
I'm skipping Matilda too, sorry.
Fair enough.
She's All That, Trading Places.
Trading Places? She's All That is really terrible.
The Devil's Advocate, The 40-Year-Old Virgin.
40-Year-Old Virgin.
Even though all those guys could have been unpromising young men. I agree with you. Eyes Wide Shut, Rush Hour 3.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah. Mad Max, 1979, Turner and Hooch.
Mad Max. I just can't look at that dog. I can't. It makes me sick. I love dogs, but the really drooly ones just kind of keep them away. Keep them away from me. It's so gross.
Backdraft or War Games?
War Games.
I can't believe Backdraft hadn't come out yet. 1991. I feel like that movie's always existed since I've known, and now we're getting to movies that I don't know. It's weird that Backdraft, we haven't gotten to that one being 30 years old yet. Alien Resurrection, 12 Monkeys.
12 Monkeys.
Agreed. Bottle Rocket, Now You See Me.
Bottle Rocket. Yeah. That's not that hard. Now You See Me is okay, though.
Right. Collateral, Gone in 60 Seconds.
Collateral.
Love that movie. Planet of the Apes, Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear.
Planet of the Apes.
Team America, World Police, or Old School? Speaking of guys who could be in Promising Young Women.
I mean, I hate Team America, so I have to pick Old School because I kind of like Old School, but now I kind of hate myself for liking it. I think I still like it.
I mean, it didn't hold up when we made it a classic.
True, that's true. Yeah, it didn't. Yeah, no, you're right. Bad enough that I've forgotten, honestly.
Go to America. Let's see what it says. I almost threw my drink. Old School wins. I mean, that's the thing we're going to run into is all these guys from American Pie to Superbad to 40-Year-Old Virgin to Old School. They're all could have been those guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Deadpool, Air Force One.
But you know what we're capable of, Bob, is admitting when we're wrong. And two things can be true at once. You enjoyed something then, reevaluate it now.
That's got to be the end of the show right there. Yeah, this is a challenging episode. All right. Anything else?
No, that's all I got.
All right. I'll keep in touch in terms of the sofa and all that stuff based on the weather. If I can get the thing off the back of my truck. It's so cold right now. But yeah, as soon as I can, we'll set something up and I'll get it out to you.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you later.
See ya.